Good morning, students. Welcome back to our physics classes. So, I hope all of you are happy with your results. And congratulations to all of you. I've seen most of you have got high results. And more than 116, I suppose, scored above 90 in your course. That's a good sign. So keep these results as a energy source for your first semester examination. Okay, means inspired from these results. I hope at the present, at the correct time, you got your results. So be these results as your inspiration and try hard. Prepare well, prepare hard, and get the best results in your first semester examination. We always say first impression is the best impression. So it's the first time that I am getting your answer sheets to correct. So make that first attempt as the best one. Okay, and it doesn't mean that first one is the best and after that we can go for that. Not like that. Keep always as best. Okay. So anyway, one more time, congratulations for your good results and keep going on like that. Okay. So we have already decided that from today we will start our revisions. And I asked you to prepare the first two chapters for the revision today. That is our motion along a straight line and motion along a plane. That means movement. Generally, we can say that motion, either it is in a straight line or in a plane. So even though we were continuing, we were there in the circular motion. So we will stop discussing the content from the circular motion for a while. And we will go for the revision of these two chapters as we have already said. And okay, so as I already told you, just take the copy and textbook with you and be there with our chapters, first chapter, that is motion in a straight line. Okay, I hope all of you are ready. Okay, so we will revise from the beginning. That means we have started the syllabus by differentiating the two states, the state of rest and state of motion. So how you can differentiate the state of rest from the state of motion? That was the first question I asked you. The differentiation based on a point in a plane. With respect to that point, you are defining the state of rest and state of motion. So what is that point? That point is the reference point. And where this reference point lies, the reference point lies in a frame of reference. Okay. So a point within a frame of reference, we can, with respect to that point, you can decide whether an object is at rest or that object is under motion. If the position changes equally or if continuously with respect to time, if you are referring to that point, its position changes by time, then you can say that that object is under motion. And if that object is not changing its position with respect to time, then we can say it is under the state of rest. So that is the first differentiation that we have seen, how you can differentiate the state of rest from state of motion. So state of rest can be differentiate from state of motion by or with respect to a fixed point, and that fixed point is known as the reference point. That is the differentiation between state of rest and state of motion. So the frame of reference can be of two types. That are initial frame of reference and non-inertial frame of reference. So initial frame of reference means in which that Newton's laws are hold good. That means which are not violating the Newton's laws of motion. That are inertial frame of reference. So initial frame of references are moving with a constant velocity. So there is no relative motion between these inertial frame of references. Then we are going to when we describe different types of motion, And before that, two terms we are using in the physics world, that are particle and object. Two terms we are using, particle and objects. See, what is the differentiation between particle and object? That I already told you. If an object is, if a particle is considered, or if something or system is considered, and its size is compared with the distance traveled by that object. The system is there and the system is traveling, and you are comparing the size of that object, size of that system and the distance traveled by that system. Comparing to the distance traveled, the size is negligible means that system is a particle. If you compare the distance traveled by an object with the size, and the size is not too much negligible, then you can say that that is an object. A bus travels 1 kilometer and an ant travels the same 1 kilometer. Distance traveled is 1 kilometer. When you are comparing the size of ant with that size of that 1 kilometer, the distance travel, the size of that ant can be negligible. So that ant can be considered as a particle. When you compare 1 kilometer with the size of the bus, comparatively it is larger than, how many times larger than the size of that ant. So at the time you can consider that bus as an object. That is the difference. Okay, difference between particle and object. Now we can have some properties of motion. What are the properties of motion? See, the terms related to motion we have already defined. That are the properties of motion. Which are they? They are distance or displacement. Distance or displacement. Then second one is speed, velocity. Speed or velocity. Then acceleration. So these are the terms that we have already seen related to motion. That means the properties of motion or terms related to motion. So what is the difference between distance and displacement? What is the difference between distance and displacement? Distance is the total path length covered by an object. It is irrespective of the direction. In which direction or any direction the particle can travel from one point to another. So what is the total path length traveled by the object? That is the distance traveled. Generally we are saying that this is distance traveled, but we are writing it as distance. Remember, it is the distance traveled by that object. Second one is displacement. What is displacement? Displacement is the straight line distance between 2 points. It is a straight line distance between 2 points, or it is the shortest distance between 2 points. is the shortest distance between 2 points. So displacement you can define as the shortest distance. I already told you distance can be in any direction from A to B. Suppose when you are considering 2 points A and B, between these 2 points, any path the particle or the object can choose to reach the point P from A. So all these refers to the distance traveled. But see, here the object travels directly from A to B in a straight line. So that is defined as the displacement. So displacement is the shortest distance traveled between 2 fixed points. Okay, and we can say the distance or displacement. Displacement is that or equal to distance. That is the relation between distance and displacement. That is the relation between distance and displacement. Distance less than or equal to displacement. Sorry, displacement is less than or equal to the distance traveled. And speed or velocity. Again, speed is the distance traveled in unit time. Distance traveled in unit time in the speed. Distance traveled in a particular direction per unit time. Particular direction. That means distance traveled in a straight line per unit time. That is mean velocity. So we can say that magnitude of velocity. We can have speed and velocity. Speed is equal to magnitude of velocity. Vector quantities are having both magnitude and velocity. So here, speed is the magnitude of velocity means speed only having its magnitude, no direction it is having. So we can say that speed is a scalar quantity and velocity is a vector quantity. Speed is a scalar quantity and vector is a velocity is a vector quantity. Okay. So remember that a vector quantity cannot be zero, or it cannot be, since we are saying that speed is a scalar quantity, speed is a scalar quantity, is magnitude only, it cannot be negative. Speed cannot be negative. Why? Because speed is a scalar quantity, it is a magnitude of velocity. So magnitude means it's a numerical value only. It doesn't carry any plus or minus. Okay. If the displacement is zero, if the particle starts from if the particle starts from a point and reaches back to the same point itself, the displacement is zero, but the distance traveled will not be zero. If a particle completes its circular motion once, where it started from where it started at the same point only, it ends its motion. There is no displacement for that object. Initial point and final point are same, but the distance traveled will not be same. 2 pi r distance is travel because it travel along the circumference of a circle. So the circumference of a circle you are getting as 2 pi r. So 2 pi r distance that particle has traveled, but its displacement is zero. Even though it started a distance or it traveled a distance, its displacement is zero. Its displacement is zero. If the displacement is zero, then velocity also will be zero, because displacement happened in unit time. That is velocity. So since there is no displacement, it carry no velocity. But it traveled a distance, so it can have its speed. But in the other sense, when we are saying that the particle at any time, it is a circumference of a circle, at any time it provides a velocity, because it has a speed, and at any point it can, I mean, we can assign a direction for also that part. I mean, the speed curve which is tangential to that circular path. I already told you, since the displacement is zero, velocity is zero. But at the same time, I am saying that at this point it has a velocity. What is the difference there? This is the instantaneous velocity. In instant, it can have a velocity. But when you are taking the total distance travel or total displacement happen per total time, at that time, total displacement is zero. Since total, then it's the total speed, I mean, velocity is also getting zero. But instantaneous velocities are the instantaneous velocity the particle has when it is under circular motion. Okay, anyhow, that is the terms related distance and displacement we have seen. Distance is a scalar quantity, displacement is a vector quantity. Speed is derived from distance. Speed is derived from distance. So speed is a scalar quantity. And since velocity is derived from displacement, velocity is a vector. Velocity is a vector quantity. Okay, then acceleration. Acceleration means whether there is a change in velocity. Acceleration measures whether there is a change in velocity. If there is a velocity change, what is the rate of change of velocity? If there is a velocity change, what is the rate of change of velocity? So rate of change of velocity is defined as acceleration. At what rate the speed increases, velocity increases, or at what rate its velocity decreases. That is measured as acceleration. That means rate of change of velocity is acceleration. Rate of change of velocity is acceleration. So when you are considering the increase in velocity, if the velocity increases with time, then the rate of change of velocity that we are measuring will be acceleration. If the velocity increases, then the rate of change of velocity is termed as acceleration. There is decrease in velocity also. So rate of decrease in velocity is not termed as acceleration. It is termed as deacceleration, or it is termed as retardation. Retardation or deceleration or deacceleration. All these are showing that the velocity decreases with time, and the rate of decrease in velocity with time is known as deacceleration, deceleration, or retardation. Okay. So increasing velocity and decreasing velocity. In both the cases, we can measure the changes in velocity with respect to time. That is measured as the acceleration or deceleration or retardation. Acceleration or retardation. Okay. So in all these kind of terms, you have to define the unit also. Distance and displacement both are measured in length. So its unit is meter. Here speed and velocity, rate of change of distance, that is meter per second. That means the speed you are writing as speed equation is distance divided by time. What is distance measured? Distance is measured in meter. Time is measured in second. So meter per second will be the unit of velocity. And acceleration is defined as rate of change of velocity. So acceleration is velocity by time. Velocity is measured in meter per second. So its unit will become meter per second square. So the velocity is measured in meter per second, and acceleration is measured in meter per second square. The acceleration is measured in meter per second square. Clear? Then again, when after defining the terms related to motion, we got the graph plotted between time and the variables. So we can have position time graph, and velocity time graph, and acceleration time graph. Three types of graphs we have seen in this chapter: position time graph, velocity time graph, and acceleration time graph. See, while preparing, you have to focus on what is the position time graph for a particle under uniform motion, non-uniform motion, or at rest. Three cases are there. And when we are going for the velocity time graph for a uniform motion, uniformly accelerated motion, and non-uniformly accelerated motion. So the acceleration time graph we have seen for uniformly accelerated motion. So these are the graphs that we have seen. And when you are preparing the topic of position time graph, you have to, I already told you what kind of graphs you have to see and what inference you can take from that position time graph. Time is taken along x-axis, position is taken along y-axis, this position. So suppose we are getting a curve like this. What kind of curve, what kind of motion is that? That is uniform motion. Position changes equally in equal interval of time. So when you are having that position time graph, when you are taking the slope, that is changing position, you got to try to change time. What is that? Speed of the particle. So speed of the particle you are getting from, or the numerical value of velocity you are getting from the slope of a position time graph. Slope of position time graph you are getting from the graph of position time graph. When you are calculating position time graph, slope of position time graph is numerically equal to the velocity. Numerically equal to the velocity. And suppose you are having the velocity time graph. Suppose it is asked, what is the importance of, what is the relevance of position time graph? What is the relevance of position time graph? From the position time graph, you can calculate the speed of that particular particle. That is the relevance of position time graph of a motion. Okay. Then velocity time graph, from the area under the velocity time graph represents the distance traveled. That is the relevance of velocity time graph. When you are taking the area under the velocity time graph, that will be the distance traveled numerically equal to the distance traveled. Okay, so that is the importance of velocity time graph. And after that, we derived the equations of motion. Three equations of motion are there. And these three equations of motion, we have four equations of motion are already there. And generally, we are saying that three equations of motion. And the fourth one also we have defined, that is the displacement happened in nth second. That also we have derived. Anyhow, the three equations of motion are important. And the three equations of motion we have derived equations of motion we have derived using graphical method as well as calculus method. Both methods are important. Important yet, we don't know whether any syllabus change is coming or not. For 12th standard already syllabus change came, and I hope for you also the syllabus revision came. So, but we can't expect too much changes in your syllabus. Last year also reduced the syllabus came, but too much changes were not there. So the same for 12th also, the same changes are there as in the last year. Last year, existing, already we are having a syllabus with you. And last year, some reduction was there. Some topics were removed from your syllabus. For 11th standard, till now, no information regarding the reduction in the syllabus. I don't know whether it is coming or not. Anyhow, still we have to be follow with our existing syllabus. In that, the graphical method as well as the method of calculus both are there. So you should be thorough with that both the methods while preparing for your examinations. Clear now? So equations of motion you are having V is equal to U plus AT, S equal to UT plus half UT square, V square is equal to U square plus UT plus. These are the equations of motion. These are the equations of motion, and these equations of motion you have to be careful. That means using the method of calculus as well as the graphical method, you have to find the equations of motion. And every time we are saying that it is only 3 equations of motion, but fourth equation is there, that is displacement in nth second, Sn, which is equal to u plus half a into u plus half a into 2t. So you can take it as tth second. What is the displacement happened in the tth second? So St is equal to u plus half a into 2t minus 1. So that is the fourth equation of motion. So we have to be follow with the equations of motion and be sure with the method of calculus as well as the method of graphical method you have already learned from your 10th standard. Okay. 10th or 9th, I'm remembering that. Anyhow, that are the content that we have to learn from first chapter. One more is there, that is equations of motion under gravity. Equations of motion under gravity changes came here. A is equal to gt if the particle is coming down, or minus gt if the particle is going up. Qt plus half gt square it is coming down, and s is taken as h down, and ut plus minus half gt square if the particle is moving in the upward direction. It is also gs if the particle is moving down, and minus 2gs if the particle is moving up, and s is the particle. So that are the equations of motion under gravity. Simple one means you are knowing about the equations of motion. Then yes, you have to replace by h, that is the distance traveled in vertical direction is height, and the acceleration is acceleration due to gravity. If the particle is moving down, so the acceleration and the movement are in the same direction. So we can have that is the positive acceleration. And if the particle is moving in the upward direction and the acceleration is acting in the downward direction, then that will be negative acceleration, because movement and force are acting in opposite direction. So that will be negative. So these are the content that we have to be careful from the first chapter. See, in first chapter, sometimes that graph can be asked, draw the position line graph for a particular movement, or derive the equations of motion using calculus, or derive the equations of motion using the method of graph. Define the state of rest and state of motion. And what do you mean by uniform motion? What are the properties of uniform motion? And these kind of questions may arise from this chapter. So if you are preparing one topic, in your mind, you ask different questions related to that particular topic. Suppose you are defining motion. So how you can define motion? The question is how you can define motion, and what are the properties of motion? What are different types of motion? So these kind of questions you create by yourself and try to find out the answers for them. That is the method of learning the content in physics. As I already told you, the same content can be asked for different marks, and it can be asked in any way. So you should be prepared in that sense. That means all the aspects of the same concept that you have to be clear when you are preparing a particular topic. That is the method of learning physics. Otherwise, if you are just learning that sentence by heart, you can write the answer only it is asked for what, suppose it is define what is motion or define motion. You can ask, I mean, answer only for that particular question. That I told you the same concept that you have to define, or that you have to learn by asking different questions about that same concept in different ways. Then in any way the question is asked, you can mold the same concept into or according to the question required. Okay, so that is the method of learning the physics concepts. So based on this chapter, we have solved some numericals in the class, I suppose. One or two problems we have solved, and from this chapter, simple problems will be asked. That means simple, when you are going through another numericals, you can find that simple concepts are there behind almost all the questions. Okay, I hope all of you are having your textbook with you, and refer to page number 141, 140 and 141. These are the numericals based on the first chapter, straight notion along a straight line. Okay, all of you take the textbook and go to the page number 140 and 141. These are the numerical page. And in the beginning, very many questions are there with the graphs, and from the graph you can easily derive the answer. I mean, everything is there in the graph itself. It's crystal clear from that graph. So you can find out the required values from that. See the question number 6. Question number 6 is the time velocity graph for a car is shown in the figure. Calculate the acceleration from A to B. See, in that graph from A to B, you can see that the curve is moving down. Along the velocity axis, it is moving down, which means its velocity decreases. So what is the change in velocity? Change in velocity you can find from 5 to 2. Earlier it was 5 meters per second, and when it reaches B, the velocity is 2 meters per second. From A to B, how much time it took? At A, when the point is, when the object is at A, the car is at A, it is showing 2 seconds. And when it reaches B, the time is 3 seconds. So how much time it takes from move from A to B? It takes only 1 second, because change in time is 3 minus 2. That is 1 second only. So how you can find out the acceleration from A to B? From A to B, acceleration is change in velocity by change in time. What is change in velocity? 2 minus 5. 2 minus 5 is minus 3. Divided by change in time. Change in time will be 3 minus 2, that is 1. So what will be the acceleration? Minus 3 meters per second square. Clear now? So this is a method to find out the answers for your graph questions. From graph questions, you can easily find out the answers. See, from question number 11, you just see the question number 11. A car accelerates uniformly on a straight road from rest to speed of 180 km per hour in 25 seconds. Find the distance covered by the car in this time interval. The car accelerates from 180, rest to 180 km per hour. 180 km per hour means how many meter per second? So how you can convert kilometer per hour into meter per second? By multiplying 5 by 80. So you can multiply 180 into 5 by 80. So that will be 50 meter per second. Kilometer per hour into meter per second. So 50 meter per second will be its speed. So V, you can take it as V. You can take it as 50 meter per second. See, always you have to keep the the data in SI units. Always you keep the data in SI unit. Okay. So the first, yeah, velocity you are getting as 50 meters per second. And what is u initial velocity? Since the car starts from rest, its initial velocity is 0. So that will be 0. And the acceleration is given. No. You have to find out the time. No. Distance traveled in time. So yes, you have to find out. Yes, you have to find out. And time is given as 25 seconds. 25 seconds. How you can find out? Yes. We can make use S or S equal to UT plus half AT square. Or we can make use B square is equal to U square plus 2AX. So B square minus U square by 2A is equal to S. For that, what you require there? You require acceleration. So A you can find out A is equal to B minus U by T. That is 50 by 25 is equal to 2 meter per second square. 2 meter per second square is the acceleration. Now that acceleration you can replace here. So V square will become 50 square minus 0 square divided by 2 into, isn't it? So you are just replacing the variables with that values. So that will become 5 into 15 by 4. So that will become 25 into 25. 25 into 75 is 625. Isn't it? Square of 25. So you are getting it as 625 meter. 50 to 25 different meters. So that will become 625. Got it now? Method you got. See, if you are choosing the right method, that means your procedure is correct, and sometimes the final answer is not correct. Then you will lose only the marks for that final result. For the steps you have written, you will get the mark for that. Okay, that I told you. First of all, you find out the data. Then the required expression you have to write, the required equation you have to write there, and finally you substitute the data and get the final result. Clear? Then the rest of the similar problems you can find there with the equations of motion. Then based on vertical motion under gravity. Second section you can find from 14th. See on that a boy standing, question number 18. A boy standing on the top of a 40-meter high building projects a stone vertically upwards with an initial velocity of 10 meters per second. Then the stone eventually falls on the ground. After how long will the stone strike the ground? See, the question is, if you can picturize a question, then that is better way. If you can picturize a question, then that is a better way. So a boy is standing 40-meter high, and he is projecting an object in the vertically upward direction, and it falls at the ground. That is the question. And how much it will take, or how long it will take to reach the ground. So from starting here, it reaches to a maximum height and comes back to the ground. How much time it requires to follow this path? That is the question. So for that, if it is initially projected with the velocity it is given, 10 meters per second. U is equal to 10 meters per second. And what is acceleration acting there? Acceleration acting is the minus g. Acceleration acting is in the minus g because it is moving in the upward direction. It is moving in the upward direction. So we can have, when it reaches the maximum height, its velocity becomes 0 for a time. We have seen already that. So we can have v square is equal to u square plus 2as. V square is equal to 0, so u square is 100. Minus 2 into 10 into this. How much it will take you, or how high it can move from the point of projection? That S you can find out. That means 20s is equal to 100. So S is equal to 100 by 20, that is 5. Okay. So from this 40-meter height, it reaches to a total height 5. So the total height now will be 45. I think that is already projected in the upward direction. So in the upward direction, it will go to 5 meter. Now from that 5 meter, it has to travel down. So at the point here, u is equal to 0. At that point, u equal to 0. So you can find out that what is the time taken to travel from the top of the tower to the maximum height. How much time it will take to reach the maximum height. That you can easily find out by v is equal to u plus 18. V is equal to u plus 18. What is v is u? What is u? That is 10. What is a now? A is 5. V is equal to u plus 18. So you are getting it as v is equal to u plus 80. So sorry, it is taking 40 meter from here. From 40 meter, it travels a distance 5 meter in the upward direction. So since it is having an acceleration, you can make use of the equation ut plus half at square is equal to distance traveled already. You are having 5 meter, so 5 meter is equal to u plus half at square. Here u is 10 multiplied by a plus half into what is a 5 into e square. So it will become 10 equal to 10 plus 5 is 10t plus 5t square. So from the initial velocity, when it is coming down, its initial velocity will become 0, and that distance traveled is equal to initial velocity u equal to 0 when it is coming down, because it is at rest initially. So 10 is equal to 5t. So t square is equal to 10 by 5. Then from 40 to from the top to bottom, how much it will take? That you can calculate using the same equations of motion. Okay. So you try to solve the questions using the equations of in gravity also. You have to make use the equations of motion. So making use the equations of motion and go through the content thoroughly, and we will continue with the second chapter. That means I told you to prepare the 2 chapters today, but the second chapter we couldn't go through the second chapter today. So we will go to this. We go through the second chapter tomorrow. Okay. So prepare this chapter well and go with the correct derivations and the correct notations and all. So we will meet in the next class.